Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Welcome back. And those of you that are new, welcome. There's been a lot in the media, social media, cable news, concerning the release of the new footage from the January 6th riot. Now, what I find interesting is the attacks on Tucker Carlson. Well, he selectively edited that, and he showed it as being mostly peaceful and blah, blah, blah. Yes, he did show some of the rioting and some of the destruction, but he didn't show enough of it. Well, we've seen all those videos ad nauseum. What we're looking at now is new video that was given from the speaker to Tucker Carlson. But the thing that gets me more than anything, you can have an opinion that it was edited to slant at a certain point of view. And what this is about is who was against the release. Now, who could possibly be against more evidence, more footage, more video? Let the American people decide which side they want to fall on. Whether some of them were just nut bars that wanted the insurrection for the government, or the vast majority were just basically wandering around, didn't know what to do, very peaceful. You notice there was very little, if any, destruction inside the Capitol and the rotunda. Those priceless paintings weren't touched. The statues weren't touched. But I digress. Look at who is really against the release of the video. And that is very telling. So let's get on with it.
Last night, we aired video from surveillance cameras on Capitol Hill. That video was recorded 26 months to the day before, January 6, 2021. And for 26 months, that footage was held from the American public. The January 6th committee made certain. Now, the Justice Department also kept a lid on that video footage. And in fact, in some cases, DOJ did not share it with criminal defendants who'd been charged on January 6th in violation of their constitution.
Now, that's part of the point. Ask any defense attorney, ask any public defender. Video of your client peacefully walking around the Capitol. Yes, the individuals were trespassing. Absolutely, no question about it. But they caused no physical damage. They should be fined and trespass charge brought against them. Some been sitting in jail for over 2 years without trial. Where are all the ACLU? Where's the ACLU? Where's all the progressive liberal government is overbearing people? You know what you get from them? You get this. Crickets. It's amazing, isn't it? Amazing. It's justice being served, whether you like these people or not. Equal handing of justice is part of the American mantra. We don't always meet that, but we sure as hell try to do it the best we can. Let's listen on.
Constitutional rights. So we felt it was a public service to bring what we could to you. There was no justification for keeping this secret any longer, and a powerful argument to be made that sunlight is always and everywhere the best disinfectant. And in fact, because it was video evidence, it is to some extent self-explanatory. Anyone could look at the tape and decide what he or she thinks of it. So the tape we showed last night indicated very clearly that Capitol Hill police, in some cases, escorted protesters through the Capitol as if they were giving a tour. They did that with Jacob Chansley, the so-called QAnon shaman. At one point, they even tried to open locked doors on Chansley's behalf. Chansley was sentenced to 4 years in prison for his crimes in the Capitol on January 6th. And the video we showed you last night raises the obvious question, why? On what grounds? The video we showed you last night also showed that Officer Brian Sicknick was not...
This is the part that really makes them crazy, was the narrative that this poor officer who later the next day, I believe the day after, died, I think it was an aneurysm or a stroke, was a martyr. They actually put his ashes and the flag on display in the rotunda, the same place where presidents that have died lay in state. probably be in the near future for Jimmy Carter. Even though I don't like him, he was a terrible president, but he was president and deserves the respect that office holds. This guy was put on the same spot that John F. Kennedy was assassinated, was put on. It was a show. It was a show to change hearts and minds. And here he is walking around. This is why they don't want it out. And take note of the individual politicians that have power and authority that didn't want this out. Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Biden, Harris, all the Democrats, Mitt Romney, all the uniparty Republicans that we talk about so much. They've forced the display of their hand. This, whether you hate Donald Trump's guts or love him or somewhere in between, this is the uniparty swamp that people have been talking about, including President Trump, for years and decades, now are exposing themselves to the sunlight. As they say, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Let's listen on.
Beaten to death with a fire extinguisher by protesters on January 6th, as the media and Liz Cheney so often claimed. The video shows Sicknick walking around the building, apparently in good health, after he was supposedly killed. We showed you that video. You can make of it what you will. We also showed you video that proves Ray Epps, the mysterious protester who encouraged others to breach the Capitol, lied to the January 6th committee about where he was on that day. But for some reason, the committee protected him anyway. He was not considered an insurrectionist. He was their ally. So once again, you can draw whatever conclusions you like from that video. We have ours and we shared them with you. But it's really beyond debate that it is good for this country for Americans to be able to see it. The media and politicians, the people in charge, have talked about January 6th every day since it happened for 26 months. And so at some point, the evidence should be presented to the public.
And that's what they don't want. They don't want the American people to make up their own minds. Now, we can go back to the argument that Tucker Carlson manipulated this video. That's a different point entirely. They do not want the American people to see these videos. Well, they were only released to Fox, so it doesn't make the videos any less genuine. Let's listen on. By the way, they think we're all stupid, and we're not.
In free countries, governments do not lie about protests as a pretext to gain more power for themselves. They don't selectively edit videos for propaganda services and then lie about them in fake hearings and show trials. But that's exactly what happened. And every member of Congress should ask why that happened. But Democrats in the Senate, the Democratic leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, is not asking why. Instead, Chuck Schumer went on the Senate floor today to explode and to say that showing that video, evidence of wrongdoing by the federal government, including the security forces, the police department that Nancy Pelosi personally controlled, letting the public see any of that is a threat to democracy. Watch.
Last night, millions of Americans tuned in to one of the most shameful hours we have ever seen on cable television. Fox News host Tucker Carlson ran a lengthy segment last night arguing the January 6th Capitol attack was not a violent insurrection.
That's a lie. Tucker Carlson never said it wasn't a violent riot. It was not an insurrection. That's a lie as well. Lie upon lie. And the house of cards is falling. Well, there are a bunch of asshats that caused destruction, that injured Capitol police officers. Yeah. Thankfully, minor injuries to the police officers. 5 people died was the narrative they had, including a police officer. That's a lie. That's a lie. And they've finally been exposed. What's dangerous is your hold on power. And I can say this with some anger because Senator Schumer is one of my senators that represent me in the U.S. Senate. Dangerous to democracy? To show the truth? You can interpret it the way you want to. What they don't like is the fact that you might interpret the video and some of the things that come out in a way that doesn't fit their narrative. That's what they call democracy.
I don't think I've ever seen a primetime cable news anchor manipulate his viewers the way Mr. Carlson did last night.
You've never seen a primetime show manipulate viewers as bad as this? Where the hell have you been? MSNBC, CNN, NBC, Twitter, Facebook. The list is endless for the last 6 or 8 years. You've never seen any of those broadcasts? This is amazing to me. I'm ashamed to be a resident of New York State right now.
I don't think I've ever seen an anchor treat the American people and American democracy with such disdain.
There's nothing that shameful that has ever appeared on American television in the history of the medium. And so, on the basis of that, the self-evident outrage of showing the public video that it paid for and has a right to see, Chuck Schumer called for the censorship of that video. Any information, and he did not dispute that it was accurate, that damages a storyline his party constructed and used must be squelched.
And there you have it. He didn't say it wasn't accurate. He didn't say it wasn't true. They're calling for censorship. Look, it used to be supposedly the old days, many years ago, it was Republicans and conservatives that wanted censorship, and the libertarian, open-minded, free speech Democrats. Well, things have changed. Or were they really that way in the old days? But we know for a fact it's the progressives and the Democrats that are calling for censorship because they're afraid the American people will make up their mind to a different narrative from theirs. That they're smarter, they're more intelligent, they're more educated, they're more sophisticated than the dumb hicks in the flyover states, as they call them, to make up their own mind. How patronizing is that?
Schumer was explicit on that point. Because that video contradicted lies told by the Democratic Party, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, Chuck Schumer demanded that our bosses pull this show off the air.
He's going to come back tonight with another segment. Fox News should tell him not to. Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, tell Carlson not to run a second segment of lies. I urge Fox News to order Carlson to cease propagating the big lie on his network and to level with their viewers about the truth behind the efforts to mislead the public.
Efforts to mislead the public. You got a nerve on you, sir, that I'm glad my tooth doesn't have. Their narrative is crumbling. Now, it's not going to convince 45% of the people that are just dug in the Democratic side. It's the 5-10% in the middle that they're afraid of because they have those cult members locked in forever. You can convince them that I live in upstate New York, that it gets warm here in the winter, and they'll believe it whether it's true or not. Those people you can never change. It's the 10% in the middle that they're scared to death of. Scared to death. And even more importantly, what this is really all about is Donald Trump, President Trump. They are scared to death of him. But these morons are exposing themselves for what they really are. We already knew, but now they're just confirming it.
Conduct like theirs is just asking for another January 6th to happen.
It's a threat to democracy. Pull him off the air. A couple of obvious observations. You don't often see the Senate Majority Leader openly call for censorship on the floor of the Senate as if that was totally normal and didn't contradict the spirit and the letter of the First Amendment. But of course it does.
This is very similar to the 1850s when senators in the South, Democrat senators in the South, called for the censorship of northern newspapers and books like Uncle Tom's Cabin and so forth and so on, to be censored from the public. Does this look familiar, folks?
But what's really happening here, what you're seeing is hysteria, the overstatement, the crazed hyperbole, the red in the face anger. What is that? Well, it's not outrage. Of course, it's fear. It's panic. Those videos, which we did not retouch, which we brought to you after running everyone by the Capitol Police to make certain that we didn't imperil anybody. We told you that last night.
Yes, they did coordinate through the Capitol Police. And there was a couple of instances where they asked some things to be blurred out. And they more than happy did it. You think the Democratic Committee on January 6th would have done the same? How they manipulated a video with Senator Hawley supposedly running away in fear? We found out later that he was the last one to leave when the Capitol Police were escorting lawmakers to a secure location. Interesting.
Those videos touch a nerve because they're a threat to the lies that Chuck Schumer has been telling for the last 26 months. And not just Chuck Schumer. We should also tell you that Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, was joined in this outrage by the Senate Minority Leader. And that would be a Republican, Mitch McConnell. And they were joined by a cascade of other Republicans, Tom Tillis from North Carolina, Mitt Romney from Utah, all sharing the same outrage. And from this, we learn two things. One, you're getting close to what they really care about. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why is it so important that they would degrade themselves by telling such obvious lies and calling for censorship?
Yes, that's a damn good question. And now we're getting the answer.
Why? What are they trying to protect? That might be worth exploring, and we plan to. And the second thing that we learned from this is that they're on the same side. The Senate Majority Leader joins the Senate Minority Leader. Tom Tillis, Mitt Romney. They're all on the same side. So it's actually not about left and right. It's not about Republican and Democrat. Here you have people with shared interests. The open borders people. The people like Mitch McConnell who are living in splendor on Chinese money. The people who, underneath it all, have everything in common, are all aligned against everyone else. And that would include almost all news organizations in this country as well.
And rank and file citizens in the United States. It's amazing how they're falling into this trap. They're exposing themselves to the real, what President Trump calls the swamp.
And so if you're watching this film, it might be kind of interesting to keep a list. Because one thing we learned today is that they're all in agreement with each other. They kind of outed themselves. They sort of showed their membership cards in whatever club this is to the public. So keep a list. If you want to know who's actually aligned, despite the illusion of partisanship, we found out today.
Exactly right. The sunlight has exposed these people for what they truly are. We've always known it, but now they're demonstrating it. The trap has been set for them, and they jumped in willingly. Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, Romney. There's quite a list. We can go through governors, senators, congressmen. It's amazing to me. And they're scared to death of being exposed. But the funny part is they're exposing themselves. They should have said nothing. Nothing. The Democrats played this January 6th Capitol riot / insurrection brilliantly politically. It was evil and wrong, but politically it was brilliant. And they did an amazing job of convincing the American people of what it was and what it wasn't. They went through scam after scam, deceit after deceit, and lie after lie. Instead of just telling the truth, that 100-odd people caused destruction and they should be jailed, and the other hundreds, if not thousands, that wandered in the Capitol just simply trespassed, give them a ticket and a fine and send them home. But now they have people in jail for over 2 years. They did nothing. Many of them, not all, but many of them just wandered around, whose lives are now ruined and their families are ruined forever because they needed the narrative that they were looking out for democracy. They were looking out for the American people. Meanwhile, they're all on the same side, just like Tucker said. And Trump's been saying it for years, long before he ran for president, how the American people are being screwed over. Go back to old Oprah Winfrey interviews with Trump. He's ragging about how Japan is blood-sucking us. Now China. He wasn't wrong. You may not like him, but he wasn't wrong. You may not like Tucker Carlson. You may hate his guts, but he wasn't wrong, and he isn't wrong now. God only knows what's going to be exposed in the next year. I give Rupert Murdoch and Fox News and the owners a lot of kudos. I've got some strong critique of Fox News in the last couple of years, but I will say Tucker Carlson, hopefully in the end, through his investigative reporting, can actually save this republic. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.